From this distant vantage point, the earth might not seem of any particular interest. But for us, it's different. Consider again that dot. That's here. That's home. That's us. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you ever heard of, every human being who ever was, lived out their lives.
Chikyu no Undo ni Tsuite, in English ORB, about the movements of the earth, is an anime about a strange phenomenon that captures people and enthralls them. Wonder. A curiosity that is like a wind, blowing every once in a while toward the horizon of truth. Sometimes this wind whispers in your ear and catches your sail. Can you hear it? And when this wind does catch your sail, where do you go? Wonder as explored in Chi is of a specific definition. The philosophical term comes from the Greek, thaumazein. Plato, in his work Theaetetus, described thaumazein as the beginning of all philosophy. Aristotle said, it is owing to their wonder that men both now begin and at first began to philosophize. It is a deep curiosity, a desire to discover the answer to a given question about reality, and most importantly, the conviction to find the answer. Chi is set in a fictional Poland in the 15th century, when heliocentrism, the view that the sun is at the center of the solar system and that the earth moves around the sun, is heresy. If you profess a belief in heliocentrism and do not recant this belief, you are executed. The protagonists go through their lives focused on the day-to-day, planning for the future, trudging through their job, working to work, until one day, by chance, the winds of curiosity whisper in their ears and fill their sails. Is it perhaps not true that the earth is at the center of the universe? And what would it mean if it weren't? This mortally dangerous question takes hold of the protagonists. Eventually, each one of them dies in service of this conviction. But why risk it? Why is the conviction of wonder so powerful that the characters not only risk their lives, but give them willingly to the cause of thaumazein? Thomas Carlyle, a Scottish essayist from the 1800s, may provide an answer. Carlyle explored a concept he called natural supernaturalism. In a journal entry from 1833, Carlyle says, "That the supernatural differs from the natural is a great truth, which the last century has been engaged in demonstrating. The Enlightenment philosophers went far wrong, however, in this, that instead of raising the natural to the supernatural, they strove to sink the supernatural to the natural. The gist of my whole way of thought is to do not the latter, but the former." Carlyle was worried Enlightenment philosophers were placing too much of an emphasis on rationality and practicality, reducing both the supernatural and the natural to something that is ultimately spiritually valueless. Carlyle instead wanted to move the value of the natural world up into the same echelon as the supernatural, allowing both realms equal and powerful spiritual value. Carlyle's writings emphasize that the world itself can contain the level of beauty and value that we often attribute solely to the supernatural. The argument is that we need not look out the corner of our eye to see a spirit, or pray for hours on end to feel the breath of God, or engage in ascetic lifestyles to experience the divine. You can see the supernatural, you can feel God, you can experience the divine by simply experiencing life itself. Life itself, the real life you can feel and smell and touch and see right now, is divine. The only trick is that you be open to it, to open your sail and allow the winds of the natural supernatural to fill you and carry you along. Scientists and mathematicians such as Hilary Putnam argued that the truth itself is elegant, saying that the more accurate a theory or equation becomes, the more elegant and beautiful it becomes. Whether elegance is a quality transcendent of the natural world and that's what we connect with, or we evolve to find the way the world works elegant, and thus elegance is a quality of the natural world, the argument Putnam and others like him make is that they are completely intertwined. This is different from traditional religious views and the views of the anime's antagonist, Novak, who viewed the natural world as a fundamentally inferior place. Theologian John Calvin in the 1500s developed a set of ideas that came to be known in the modern day as the abbreviation TULIP. Total depravity, unconditional election, limited atonement, irresistible grace, and perseverance of the saints. Essentially, Calvin argued that God's authority is absolute, that humans are inherently tainted with sin, and that only God's grace can offer salvation. It is a dark worldview, one that believes the natural world is naught but suffering, and that God and his teachings, however inscrutable they may be, are the only way to any sort of happiness and meaning. And it is only the chosen few of the church that can even begin to interpret God's will. If you are just a regular person, you can only follow what these interpreters of God's will say and have faith that it is the right thing to do. Before being convinced by Thalmazane, Oxy could not even look up to the sky, for he felt the supposedly superior supernatural realm staring, judging from above. But that curiosity grabbed Oxy, and eventually it flowed so powerfully within him that he was able to look up and defy the supposed supernatural Calvinist order, declaring that the ground that he himself stands on is in and of itself elegant and worth fighting for. Every one of them eventually defies Calvinism. Important to note is that most of the protagonists do not deny God's existence nor God's beauty and meaning. They simply believe that God's beauty and meaning was all around them, not in some faraway place only reached through death. But that belief would upend the power structure of the world. If human beings actually have the ability to understand God's will and design, to understand God's elegance, that means that individuals have just as much power as parishioners, monks, priests, or the Pope. It implicitly denies the divine right of kings, the view that kings were ordained by God to rule because it is only they who can begin to understand some of God's will. That threat to the world order is why Thalmazane, in the world of Chi, is suppressed. That is why heliocentrism is heresy. Bringing the divine to the common man via the natural world gives them a connection to God that cannot be controlled. It allows anyone and everyone to hear the voice of God. And it shifts people's willingness to sacrifice away from the hope of gaining something in the afterlife to sacrifice for the world before them. It shifts the focus to the here and now. Chi argues that divine beauty can be something inherent in the real world we live in today. One simply needs the curiosity to hear the winds of wonder and to allow Thalmazane to fill your sails.
地球の運動についてって。
書き違いかな。運動するのは天球だし。地球の運動についてか。
1468年、アルベルト・ブルゼフスキは23歳でクラクフ大学に入学。後に同大学で20年にわたり教員として働く。大学では主に数学と自然哲学を教えた。その際、従来の天動説一般に対して疑念を示すような講義を行ったが、結論は保留した。1482年、彼は当時の天文学の教科書「惑星の新理論」への注釈書を書き、同書は大学で広く学び続けられた。1491年、彼の注釈書で天文を学んだ同大学の生徒の一人にコペルニクスという名の青年がいた。